My name is Mad Skills, and you are now tuned into the Spark Something podcast. And right here, I want you guys to be the best version of yourself. I want you to live out the life that God is calling you to live out, because there'll never be another you. And no one else can do it the way that you can do it. Not with the flavor God has given you. So with that being said, welcome to the show. Let's go. Yo guys, what's going on? It's your girl Mad Skills. Welcome to another episode of the Spark Something podcast. And we are back with another episode. I get it. I know I was MIA last week. It was a long week last week, but I was actually still in Orlando and I was still trying to shoot. And I had some things that were going on. But life was happening. Life was life, and of course. But that's no excuse. It's no excuse, but I really do appreciate you guys for continuing rocking out with the episode previously and the one before that. I want to be completely transparent with you guys. Normally, this is what I try to do. It is about 2:10 in the morning. I have not had any water. I have not had any tea. I've not had coffee. I don't need coffee or tea right now. But I rolled out of bed and I was like, yo, I need to talk about this because I feel as though when God gives me a challenge or when there's something challenging that's happening and God is working in me and through me, I'm learning to begin to talk things out. I'm learning to begin to express myself even more. And I thank God for the people that are around me that see me in some of the most vulnerable states in my life. The people that are around me that hear the little girl inside of me that that see me cry or that hear my voice crack or they see and hear and know that I feel inadequate and they don't judge me. Those people are God sent. Those people are jewels. Those people are amazing because when you've spent so much of your time, and I'm getting right into it, that's crazy because God don't play no games. But when you spend so much of your time feeling like you have to be good all the time, or you have to be perfect all the time, and you have to know what you know, and you can't go out there until you do. And when God begins to work in you and work on you and through you in front of people, it can be extremely daunting and it can be very, very uncertain because you're new at this. Now, when everybody's new at it, it's cool. But when God is beginning to transition you and bring you into a different light to where you have to be a child and you actually have to grow through this. I just talked about this in the last episode, but when you actually have to grow through this process in front of people, it's scary. And I just had a conversation with a friend of mine. I call her my sister. And I was very transparent with her. And it's been a while since I've felt this way. But obviously, I still have these things still pop up. This feeling of inadequacy still pops up. And I realize that where God is taking me, anytime I feel unsure of myself, I feel inadequate. Anytime I feel like this is new territory, I'm afraid. Who wouldn't be? I don't know where I'm going. I don't know who all gonna be there. I have no idea because I feel so unprepared and ill-equipped. But I want to just encourage someone that may be listening to this. I don't know, at 4 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. That may be listening to this at 6 a.m. or at a time where life is challenging and you don't know which way to go or how to move, and you're unsure of yourself and you're unsure of what God is doing. Because I've spent so much time, I don't want to say so much, I'm going to say because I've spent time in God's presence. And while I was spending time in God's presence, I begin to understand that I need him. I begin to understand that I can't do this if he's not in it. Every single thing that I've ever stepped out to do, I've always felt inadequate and unsure of myself. But if God has called you to this thing, this podcast, for me, the brand that I'm slowly working on, um, the music, the dancing, if God has called you to something, at one point in time you felt inadequate with it. You haven't always felt sure. And it's and if you're not sure, you're not really sure of the thing, a little nugget to transform or change your mind, you have to be sure that if God called you, that he is going to make provision for you. I was just talking to my sister, my friend, and she said if God called you through it, he's gonna, or if God called you to it, he'll call you through it. And I was like, you know what, you're right. You're right. And I realized why I'm always so unsure of myself when it comes to the things that God has called me to. It's because people's lives may be attached to that. It's because it causes me to step outside of just being Lynetta. And I have to begin to be in my purpose. Not saying that, I gotta say that better. Not saying that who Lynetta isn't in her purpose. It's saying that the everyday, mundane, 9 to 5, you know, the normality of life that people try to sit in that pocket, that God's not calling for everything to just be and to just, flow the way the world believes that it's supposed to look. As long as you have a job, as long as you're married by this age, as long as you have somewhere to sleep, you get a house, you get a family, you got a career, you got a college degree. God isn't that interested in the way the world views success. He's not that interested in that. God sits, dwells, lives, breathes, and moves in purpose. Like everything God does has a purpose. And the purpose may not always be what we think it is or what we think it should be, because God's ways and thoughts aren't our ways and our thoughts. So his purpose for doing something or for calling you is completely different. But when God does begin to call you out of the regular mundane thing, it it feels scary. Sometimes it feels very, very scary. And a lot of people will will say, God hasn't given you the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and of a sound mind. And that is true. But my fear, I'm just now realizing that is not fear of, I don't believe that I have this. My fear is I don't want to do all of this, and it's not exactly it's not exactly how God wants me to do it. My fear is doing it is God giving me something and not following the footsteps as though I have called myself to this thing. That's my fear. My fear is I I'm getting something, a gift from God, and I'm perverting it because I never went back to him to ask him how to use it. I never, because I got it. People love me. They care. They do this. They do that. I'm I'm not that concerned anymore because people are fickle. Life is fickle. Life is it comes and it goes for people. And if I spend my entire life expecting people to love me and for people to care about me and for people to be there for me all the time, and people didn't create me, but if I allowed them to create this version of me that God didn't say I was, I have to stay in that little pocket to feel gratitude. I have to stay in that little pocket to feel like I'm whole, to feel validated. I have to stay where they have placed me. But looking at it from what I know of God and spending time with God in my alone time and me being still with God and understanding that with God it looks different. Like, you could be doing something that God has called you to do, and it might just be one person that it makes an impact on. It might be two people, it might be three people. But if what you're doing he's not pleased with, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. If God tells me to stop right now, I would. When it comes to podcasting or when it comes to dancing or rapping or speaking or any of that, I would, because I'll be honest with you, me personally, it's not something that I always want to do, but I do it because it's a part of my purpose. I do it because it's the thing that God has given me to speak to his people about him. It's the thing that God is literally poured into me to say, "Hey, I need you to say what I told you to say." And being obedient and caring about God more than I care about man, it's important that I listen and I hear him, because I don't have all the answers. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do all the time. And even when I do know, I still, me personally, I still take it back to God. But I was just having that conversation with my friend or my sister, and I was just telling her, like, I'm scared. I'm scared. And I explained to her why I was scared. I'm scared because I don't want to make a mistake. Of course, I want God to be pleased with my life, but it's a different ball game when you have other people. You have people's, that God wants you to speak to, or you have places that God wants you to go, and it's new territory for you. It's like breaking the ground for you, and you're like, God, okay, I want to make sure that I represent you in a way that you are pleased with. I'll be honest with you, it's a lot, because if I fail, then I just fail. But I can't handle failing and other people are attached to it. But then again, God will be like, so what if you fail? Even if, even what we believe failure to look like, God sees it as a lesson. He sees it as in a way to interject in our lives. Sometimes we need to fail, to be honest. We need to fail because if we if we win all the time, eventually we will believe that we had something to do with it. Like, yeah, I did this. And in all actuality, you couldn't breathe if God didn't put breath in your body. In all actuality, you couldn't move any limbs. There'd be no activity of your limbs if God didn't touch you and say, all right, I'm gonna give that to you. We're gonna move. We wouldn't be able to do any of this. So having that conversation, because God chose me for this moment. I'm not bashing anyone. I don't want to I don't want I don't want it to feel that way. But what I do want to say is I want to be in purpose. I want to walk in my purpose. I want to walk in what God is calling me to walk into, because he knows all about me. And I don't want to just be out here wandering around. I want to do it. I guess I can tell you guys what the big thing is that yeah, I can do that. I can tell you guys what the big thing is that I was so fearful of. So one of the ladies at my church, she hit me up and she was like, "Hey, Sister Lynetta, I was just, I hope all is well. I was just, contacting you just to let you know that I'm working on the program and just verifying that you are indeed giving the message for the Christmas service." I said, "What? What are you talking about, bro? What? What are you talking about? What are we doing? I never said anything about giving any message for any Christmas service." So I ended up having to call my pastor back. But before I did that, I screenshotted I screenshotted the text and I sent it to my friend. And I said, "Yo, what is going on? What are we doing? What's happening?" And we began to have a conversation, and she poured into me, and her husband gave me some revelation, and I was like, oh, okay. She was like, are you okay? I said, no, I'm not okay. And besides it being Christmas service, it's also youth service. And I'm like, I don't I don't know what to say to these kids. I didn't have, and I began to look at myself, and I began to do to me what was done growing up. I began to speak negative over my situation. And I said, I don't know what to say to these kids. I didn't have the best childhood. Having to speak into the lives of children, like not rapping, but actually like speaking into their lives. 'Cause rapping is different. You're doing it over a beat, but at the same time, it's still giving the word. But I'm like, I didn't have the greatest childhood. And it shakes me. Like I be shaking in my boots. I'm not gonna front with you. I shake in my boots because I'm like, God, what are you doing? But I know what he's doing because I already got revelation a couple years back that I was going to be speaking to kids. And I want to run because it's like God is bringing me back to the very place where I was unsure. And I'm speaking to children that were around the same age where I was unsure, but their lives look way different from mine. And my God, what do I say? How will I connect with these kids? And 13, 14, 15, 11, 12, 6, 5, 17, how do I connect with these children in a way that, first of all, they'll understand? But because I know what it feels like to be where they are, because I mean, people who are much older than kids, of course, I used to be a teenager once, but that's not my story. My story is my teenage years were the most Jesus, how could I put this? My teenage years were the were those years where you're supposed to have some type of structure and some type of consistency in your life, and you have to have some type of help. Those are some of the most vulnerable areas, some of the most vulnerable years, excuse me, that you'll have. And those years begin to shape you as an adult. They begin to shape you in ways that you didn't even know that you needed shaping. And I didn't have the greatest teenage years. Okay. My teenage years were pretty rough. And it was that pocket between 14 and 18 and 13. And I was right there in that pocket. And those are the kids that I have to speak to. And I'm like, God, I feel inadequate speaking to them because I know what my childhood looks like. You know how you try to go back to connect with them. And God said, I can use that, and I want to use that because I want to heal you. I want to make you whole. But if you don't allow me to use it, you're going to taint it. And I remember being a child and having a gift and a talent, and people pretty much loving me because of my gifts and my talents. And I'm like, God, I'm not using those gifts and those talents now. Now you have me in a different arena. Now you actually have me talking to these kids, giving giving your word to these kids. It's very frightening. And I want to make sure that because I have their ear, and not just their ear, their parents' ear, and not just on any day or any Sunday. This is a Sunday where a lot of people show up at church. And I have their ear and their presence is there. I want to make sure, and I'm afraid in that area because I didn't have the best childhood. And I don't know, I was seeking you so much during that time that I was so uncertain of myself. And I still remember what that feels like. I remember what the uncertainty feels like. I remember what being alone as a teenager feels like. And I still have those struggles to this day. And God's like, I want to use these struggles to show you that I can heal you. But we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. So when you begin to speak, I want you to speak. I want you to begin to speak and tell your story as an overcomer because that's what you are. I want you to begin to speak and tell them who I am. And I'm like, God, okay. That was a moment in my life where I was trying to figure out who I was. And I was angry with life, and I was hurt with God, and I didn't understand everything that he was doing because I had just lost my mom, and my life flipped upside down. And I felt like I didn't have really anybody. I mean, of course I lived with family, but those were the loneliest times in my life. And those were the times where I probably made some of the most craziest mistakes I've ever made because and 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 those were also the times where I didn't feel the most loved. Like I felt tolerated, but feeling love is very, very different than feeling tolerated. And I needed somebody and I needed something, but I didn't know what it was fully at the time. But now I know what it is now because that's something that I needed. I got, which is God. But I needed something to fill the void that I was having. I needed something to fill the lack because I spent so much of my time diving into my thing. Like I'm good at this. So if I'm good at this, people won't if I show the people what I'm good at, they won't see my broken pieces. They won't see that I'm lacking. So I'm just going to be good at what I'm good at, not understanding that I began to idolize this thing that I was good at. I'm just I know I'm probably all over the place, but I'm legit trying to give you guys the backstory and not trying to talk myself out of doing what God is calling me to do now, but I'm explaining to you why I felt so unsure of myself. Because these were the moments to where I was seeking validation and I was seeking for somebody to see me, and I needed somebody to see me. So my gift of doing poetry, my gift of dancing, my gift of doing music, I used those things because I knew that I was gifted. And if I'm gifted, and if I use my gifts, and I say they're used for the glory of God, and a lot of them at the time, most of the time they were because that's what I needed that void to be filled. But when you don't have people that's around you as a child and they don't nurture you, they don't see God moving and working in you and through you. Their view on this is my gift. This gift gets me um it gives me validation. People clap. People hear me. People see me. Cuz a lot of the times as a child, you're not always seen, but people see me and they love me while I'm doing this. So I'm going to always do this. I'm not going to change it up because I'm good at it. And then when God begins to say, hey, I'm going to take you back to that place. And in taking you back to that place, I'm going to use that fear or that space of inadequacy. I'm about to use that because I need you to understand that I need all of you. I want all of you. I need you to understand that I want all of you. Even the parts of you that you have buried, even the parts of you that you have hidden, I know that they are there. And I'm like, God, can I not just be like, I'm good right here? And God's like, no, that's not a part of the purpose. There's more for you on the other side of that. That's not a part of the purpose. That's not a part of the plan. The part of the plan is for you to be whole. The part of the plan is for you to be without spot, wrinkle, or blemish. And I know that that's difficult. And of course, it'll be difficult for everybody else. But I have called you to myself. And I need you to look like me. I need you to look like who I've chosen. I need you to look like who I know or who I knew. Because God said, I knew you before you were formed in your mother's womb. That's in the Bible. And I need you to look like what I knew without spot, wrinkle, or blemish. I need you to be the version that I created before the world began to taint your view. So when you feel inadequate and when you feel like you're not good enough and when you feel like you're not worthy enough, that's not who I called. Jesus. God said, that's not who I called. That's not who I said you were. So until you begin to look like who I called, until you begin to look like me, I am going to continue to purge you. Yes, you are going to continue to have to be still and know that I am God, even in the face of adversity. You are going to have to trust in me with all of your heart and lean not unto your own understanding, and in all your ways acknowledge me and I will direct your path. That's Bible. So until you look like me, the me that until you look like the version that I created, because when we were created for him. Until you look like the version that I created when we were created, this is what I meant. I'm sorry. When we were created in his image. Until we get back to looking like our daddy. I'm gonna say it like that. Because people used to say, you look just like your daddy. You look just like your mama. You look just like your grandma. Like until you get back to being the image that God created and that he knew. Because I want to be who God knew. Part of this is part of my message for Sunday. I want to be who God knew. Until you get back to being exactly who God created, you're always going to struggle with your identity. This is what he told me. You're always going to struggle with inadequacy. You're always going to struggle with your identity because the worldview of what you're supposed to look like, what you're supposed to be doing, who you're supposed to be, and what you are, their view is comforting for them. And it's not even comfortable, it's a mask for them to sit and dwell because they don't want to be, they don't want to have to go through the refiner's fire. They don't want to have to go through the pressing and the beating and the shaking and growing and maturing. They don't want to have to go through this thing. And my fear is not living what I talk about. My fear is not is not being who God has called me to be and thinking that I have it all together and I'm just like, God, I'm good from here. My fear is eventually getting to a certain point to where I don't pray, I don't seek God, I pretend like I know what I'm doing. That's a fear that I have. Very, very healthy fear that I step outside of what God is calling me to do. And because I have that fear, which is reverence to the true and living God, because I have that thing, God is like, that's what I need you to have. That's the fear that's okay with me. Is that you fear doing it outside of me. That's a fear that I'm fine with. But you being afraid that you're inadequate and you're not good enough, that's not the fear that I'm calling you to. I'm not I don't know who that is. I don't I don't I don't know who that is because I don't dwell in that. So I was struggling. I don't even know how I got to this whole breakdown, but I feel like that was not just for y'all, but it was for me too. So, long story short, I'm giving the word on Sunday for Christmas. I'm giving the Christmas program message. I will be that one. Hopefully, I will not be that long winded, but I do believe in saying all that God has called me to say, just in case this is my last time. I want to make sure that people know who God is, and I want to make sure that they know that He saves. Point blank, period. I don't know what else to tell them. I want people to know who Christ is, and I want them to know that He is their everything. Point blank, period. I don't know what else to tell them. It's Christmas. Merry Christmas. Enjoy your family. Eat real good and have a merry good time. But before you go, I need you to know that just in case you don't ever see me again, I spend time with God, and this is what He is calling me to say to you. So all of those years and every single episode I've ever felt inadequate, and I was talking to you guys about my inadequacy, it was mainly because God had given me something that I didn't think that I was capable of doing. By myself, I definitely wasn't. But with Him, it'll flow like water. It'll flow like water if I remain in Him. And it's not to say that it's always going to be easy and it's always going to be a breeze, because you're going against the grain, to be honest. But every time you can always you can always lean back on God, like, God, you gave this to me. I want to make sure that what I'm doing and when I'm doing it and how I'm doing it is okay with you. And I want to make sure that I don't do anything outside of that. And that's where I am right now. That's where I am. That's where I've been. So anytime God gives me something and He calls me to do something outside of my normal, it's like and even when He calls me to do things in my normal, it's like okay, God, what's up? Who is this for? How is this? What am I supposed to do with this? And I begin to just ask questions, spend time with Him, read His word, listen to His word. I begin to pray. And the one key thing about prayer is not just speaking, but it's also taking time to listen. Because if we just pray and then we like, amen, and we get up and we go make breakfast, God's like, well, dog, you gonna let me? So this was just a conversation you needed to have. You didn't really want me to say nothing. And I've had to not just talk to God, but listen. I think that was the key for me, was just hearing Him out. Like, all right, God, I'm asking you a question. You're not answering me. And He's like, I would, but I need you to chill. I need you to chill. Like, I got the answer. But Our ways aren't his, our thoughts aren't his. His timing is not always ours, but it's exactly when we need it. If I can keep it a buck. And yeah, guys, that's all I wanted to talk about today or this morning cuz it's now 2:49. But thank y'all for just hearing me out really quickly. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for growing with me through this process. It's been a very, very interesting journey to get here. But I'm grateful that God chose me. I'm grateful that I didn't just jump out here on my own. I'm grateful that I still have a healthy fear of him, that I don't want to do anything outside of him, and that I don't care that much about the applause. I don't care that much about that. I care more about God knowing who I am and me doing what he called me to do more than anything. Because I'm gonna keep it a buck. I don't really want to do this. I don't always want to do it, but I'm honored that God is like, I called you to this. So yeah, that's where we at. I love y'all. I appreciate you guys. I'm not. I'm probably not going to talk to you guys before Christmas. Maybe I am. I might drop another episode because I didn't drop one last week. But just in case, I want to say Merry Christmas. I want to say enjoy your family. I want to say um, spend some time with God this week. And yeah, spend some time with God, enjoy your family, and don't eat too much. Thanksgiving was just last month. So just don't eat too much, but enjoy your family. Spend some time with God, get in his word, um, get in some get into worship, and we're gonna go into 2024 with a better attitude. I don't want to be like new year, new me, but I literally want us to. I know I want to. I don't know, some of y'all might just be okay with just being mediocre. But I know that because I'm not okay with being mediocre, the people that listen to me can't be okay with being mediocre either. But because I'm not okay with being mediocre, I I want us to go into 2024 with the mindset and the understanding that God has a purpose for us. And that purpose doesn't always look like it doesn't always look easy, but it's perfection. It's perfect. And it doesn't necessarily mean we're perfect, but it means he has a perfect will for our life. And it's set up to where we are going to need him. And it's set up to where we aren't going to be able to do this without him. Just FYI. But I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. I'm hoping that I gave y'all some nuggets, and I'm hoping y'all can take some stuff with y'all. I definitely am about to go back and re-listen to this because there's some things in here that I might actually need to write down for Sunday. But I love you guys. I appreciate you guys for rocking with me one more episode. Thank you guys so much for all the love, the likes, the shares, the comments, the support. I greatly appreciate you guys because I do this because God has called me to, and that's about it. But this is your girl, Mad Skills. Honestly, no, that's not it. I do it because I care. Also, I do it because He called me to it, and I do it because I actually love it. Like, I love this. I love speaking to people. Yes, it's fearful, but I enjoy pouring into people. So, thank y'all for lending me your ears one more week. And I appreciate you guys. Well, this has been your girl, Mad Skills. This is another episode of the Spark Something podcast. And I hope this sparks something in your life. And I'm out. Peace, baby.